Honestly, guys, Cuties is so fucking good. This is what I mean by this is how society fails young girls, especially fails young black girls. Because there's no empathy. There's no empathy. There's no need. There's no feeling or a need to protect them. And now when you're presented with a film like Cuties, you have an issue. You have an issue because this is the reality. This is the reality of how so many of these young girls are living. Hi everyone, my name's Rakaya and you may know me as a sex educator. Today I want to talk about the film that is in everybody's mouths currently at the moment, and that is Cuties. Honestly guys, Cuties is so fucking good. Before I start, I just want to say follow me on Instagram. I'm hella active on there. I'm always talking about sex and other related issues. That's __ Rakaya. Now back to the topic at hand. Let me make something clear first. I was one of the people who was really annoyed at how this film was marketed. I personally think that this film was marketed for shock value purposes, and it was just really distasteful. But then I think to myself, if it wasn't marketed in that way, would it have made so much noise that it has made? But then on the other hand, because of the noise that it's making, it's taking away from the message of the actual film and what the writer wanted to tell, the story that she wanted to tell. I also almost dismissed this movie after seeing D'Angelo Wallace's review on Cuties. And I have to say, after watching it myself, I do believe that he's completely missed the point of this film. In my own opinion, Cuties exposed the harsh reality of how so many girls are currently experiencing their girlhood. It exposes the fact that young girls are really curious about sex and they are really exposed to sex. Like, it's so easy to access right now. We currently live in a very sexually charged society. Everyone is doing it. We're all doing it. But yet somehow sex is still a taboo. It's still a hush-hush kind of thing. There's so much access. Like, young people have so much access to pornography, for example. It's very easy to go on Pornhub or even Twitter. I don't have a proper Twitter account. My Twitter account is solely just to look at porn on Twitter, and it's really accessible. And before Twitter, it was Tumblr. Before Tumblr did the whole restrictions thing, a lot of people were using Tumblr for porn purposes. And also, rap music is very hypersexualized. The men tend to hypersexualize women, and women tend to hypersexualize themselves in rap music. And it's not the women's fault, and I don't see anything wrong in it, but it didn't start from women. It started from men objectifying women. And there's nothing wrong with being curious as a young preteen or teenager. When you are at an impressionable age, you are going to want to explore. You are going to be curious. The issue with our society today is that curiosity is not being guided. Young people are being exposed to these things without proper guidance, nor the proper education on what they are actually seeing. And the reason why so many people had an issue, or why I believe that so many people have an issue with this film, is because they don't like to deal with the truth. The truth can be very difficult to stomach. I watched Kimberly from For Harriet. I watched her review of this film, and she mentioned 13, the film 13, and I was like, oh my gosh, I remember 13, because this is the thing about Cuties, which I'm gonna get to. It actually made me remember things that I've forgotten in my childhood and adolescence years. But when she said that, I was like, shit, 13. I remember seeing trailers on 13. And that was basically a movie about, I think it was a main girl, I think it was two girls, that once they turned 13, they were just promiscuous, they were taking drugs, they just became bad girls. They became society's definition of bad girls. And, you know, they became fast. I never watched it when I was younger, but I am going to watch it now that I've remembered it, because I was a bit too young. But I remember I really wanted to see that movie. I really, really wanted to see, you know, what it was like when you turn 13, or at least that's what I thought. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because this is not the first time that the harsh reality of young people has been exposed to us through film. And also there's another film called Kids, which was also like very controversial. And there's another film, but I just, for some reason, I can't find it, but it was about a group of like suburban white kids who, there was just so many scenes of them having sex and smoking weed and listening to rap music. That was also controversial. And then I remember Kimberly also mentioned Euphoria, which I haven't watched, but obviously the difference between Cuties and Euphoria is that it's grown adults playing minors. So yeah, I do agree with people that maybe they shouldn't have used minors to play these roles. Maybe they should have just gotten people who were of legal age. I don't know what it is in France, but I think it's similar to the UK. I think it's 16. Maybe they could have got people who were 16, 17, but who looked really young to play these roles. But then a part of me feels like it wouldn't have had the same effect. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I am kind of in between with that. Even though this is not the first time that we've had some sort of controversial film about underage children doing things that they shouldn't be doing, there's something really different about Cuties. For me, it's the layers that it presents, in terms of the main character, her living situation, her family situation, her background, and just how she's pretty much navigating through girlhood. Cuties is also very nuanced, and I could relate so much to the main character. For example, coming from immigrant parents and also kind of being raised in a polygamous household, because, well, she was about to be raised in a polygamous household, because I also, well, my dad had two wives at the same time, and my mum, but it was kind of reversed, because in this situation her mum is kind of like the first wife, but in my situation my mum was like the second wife, who was much younger, much prettier, and there was definitely drama there. And my family is also Muslim, so I was brought up in a Muslim household. Not only that, but my family was big on culture. My family was big on African culture, Nigerian culture, Yoruba culture. That was very evident in our household. So I really related to the main character because her situation and how she was brought up was very similar to my own. Now, the thing about being raised in such a household is that nobody ever speaks to you about sex. Nobody ever speaks to you about boys or, you know, your body and the different changes that you're going through. One thing that I always say on my Instagram, which you should follow me on because, like I said, I'm hella active. But one thing I always say is that sex education, it should come from two different places. When you're young, the first place is school, and the second and the most important place is home. If you're not getting the proper comprehensive sex education from both of these places, you're pretty much left to figure things out on your own. And when you're left to figure things out on your own, the result can be like what we saw in Cuties. Another thing that I thought was very interesting about this film was that it exposed three main things for me that I got from it. Is that the first thing is that young girls are really curious about sex. The second thing it exposed is how young girls express their sexuality. The third thing is how young girls explore their femininity and how some even understand how to weaponize their femininity to get what they want. And I feel like this is another reason why people may feel really uncomfortable to watch it. In the movie, they're doing these things by their own free will, by their own choice. Usually, when we see young girls acting out in movies or just doing things that they're not supposed to be doing, it's not usually them having their own agency. It's usually maybe they're being abused, they're being taken advantage of, they're being groomed. But in this film, they were influenced or they were motivated by their own curiosity. Like, there was no adult influence. There was nobody taking advantage of these girls. To me, this film really exposed how society is not only failing young people, but is failing young girls. When you enforce purity culture onto young girls and you essentially suppress their sexuality, that curiosity within them. Like I said, there's nothing wrong in being curious, but that curiosity within them is left unnurtured. And when it's left unnurtured, it leaves them susceptible to being taken advantage of, to abuse, to being groomed, or to making mistakes that could have been avoided if they had received the proper guidance. I'm going to talk more about that curiosity because I feel like it's important for me to explain what exactly it is. This film gave me so much flashbacks of my own childhood, adolescence. I could relate to so many of the scenes in this film. Like, for example, the main character wanted to wear like these really skimpy outfits. Like, the young girls are wearing these like these crop tops and these really short skirts, and that was definitely me. I mean, that's still me now. I mean, fuck it. But I'm old enough now. Do you know what I mean? But back then, I was really, I wanted to do that. I wanted to wear those skimpy outfits. I remember buying thongs from Primark at like 12 years old because I wanted to wear it with some low cut jeans so that my thongs could show. Lying about my age. I used to lie about my age a lot, especially when I was around 12, 13, because I just felt like if I was going to meet any boys that were maybe 16 or something, then 12 is still too young. And that's exactly what the girls did in the film. They lied about their age. I was heavily interested in boys during secondary school. I went to an all girls school, so I never got to be around boys like that. So I literally, like, I was boy crazy, and I was going to weekly classes at Islamic school at the mosque, and I was going to mosque on Sunday as well. And that's exactly what the girl was doing. That's exactly what Amy was doing in the film. And I was just like, oh my God, this is literally me. Like, this is this resembles my adolescent experience so much. And also emulating what I saw on TV. I used to emulate what I saw on TV all the time, and being flat-chested as well. That was another thing, because I remember in the movie, the girls must have teased the main character, Amy, saying that how, your bum is so flat, we can't tell the difference between the front and the back. And after that, the next time she was in her hallway and she was just watching the women that were going past, and she was just looking at their asses just to like kind of compare, because prior to that, she probably never even thought about her bum being flat or not. It's only until these young girls brought it up that it became an issue for her. And that was the same thing as me. I never used to see a problem with being flat-chested until some girls were telling me, oh, why are you so flat? Like, everyone else has got boobs. Why haven't you got boobs? And I started looking at all the girls in my year. And bearing in mind, I'm like 10 years old. I'm looking at all the girls in my year, and I can see, okay, so at least, even if they don't have like tits, they at least have some form of breast tissue. I didn't have any of that. Like, literally, I was such a late developer. Another thing as well is the internet around that time. I'm a millennial, so I had the privilege of knowing what life was like before the internet, before social media, before smartphones. And I was lucky enough to experience the transition into these things and to witness kind of like the evolution of what we have now. So when I was a preteen, Facebook was like in its first year. MySpace was the shit. Bebo was big in the UK. You had Pixo, you had High Five. In America, they had AIM, which is AOL Instant Messenger. In the UK, we had MSN. We had forums, we had internet forums. I used to go on internet forums all the time. And we still have internet forums today. But back then, it was a lot different because you were anonymous online. There was like, it was weird to have your pictures online. It wasn't weird, but it's just like, it was a lot more acceptable to be anonymous online and to be faceless online than to have like a bunch of pictures of yourself. There was also Habbo Hotel, chat rooms. I remember when YouTube first came about, and me and my friends, we must have watched this video of some guy, or I think we must have seen a picture of some guy who had like the hugest dick in the world. It was fake, but back then we believed it because he could put like his dick around his shoulder, but it wasn't real. And we used to watch, like, this was before YouTube became censored, but we used to watch like quite explicit stuff on YouTube as well in school when our teacher wasn't around. And I remember my curiosity really kicking in when I was trying to download a music video from LimeWire. Yes, if you remember LimeWire, then you know what I'm talking about. I remember downloading or attempting to download a music video, and then when I opened it up, it was a porn. It was a porn clip, and it was a porn clip. It was HD, by the way. It was very clear, and it was of a woman getting fisted by a man. Did I sit down and watch the whole clip? I absolutely did. I absolutely did from start to finish. It was probably like about 10 minutes long. I watched it and I couldn't take my eyes off of it. I didn't know what fisting was. I couldn't understand why her anus was getting stretched out like that. But it's what I saw. And I remember going on blackgirls.com. I used to go on blackgirls.com and I would just scroll down the first page, but for some reason I still got a virus. I don't know, back then it was, the internet was weird. You could get a virus just by visiting a website. So I used to get viruses from it, but I would scroll down and I would see like the different clips of like black women, you know, having sex and stuff, and all these porn clips and stuff. And I was really curious about it. And you know, boys are very curious too. Boys are extremely curious. But the difference between boys and girls is that boys are just kind of left to do their own thing. They're pretty much allowed to explore their own sexuality. We've heard the stories of boys that have been caught, you know, masturbating. I've never heard a story of a guy getting in trouble for masturbating. Like, usually if his dad walks in and finds him masturbating, it's more of they have a talk afterwards, and he you know, he gives him the talk. It's never what you're doing is bad or you're defiling your body or anything like that. It's more like, I'm going to leave you to do your own thing and explore and kind of figure it out. Whereas I always wonder to myself, like, if I was caught touching myself and when I was younger, what would have happened? What would my parents have done, especially coming from a really traditional Nigerian family? This is what I mean by female sexuality is incredibly demonized and suppressed by our society. And I just want to note as well that yes, I'm using gendered language for this video, but you have to be aware that when we speak about misogyny, because this is essentially what I'm speaking about, gendered language is actually crucial. I'm not somebody who follows the sheep. Like, I like to think for myself. I'm just saying this because there might be some people from my Instagram who are following me and being like, why are you using these terms like female sexuality and stuff like that? And I just have to say, it's because I'm talking about misogyny right now. If my language isn't gendered, then it pretty much erases the experiences that so many young girls have gone through. If we're talking about general, like, just periods, like for example, my previous video, how to shave your vulva, that is for anyone who has a vulva. That has nothing to do with gender. But when we're talking about something like this, it's actually crucial that we do actually use gendered language. That's my own opinion. If you want to fight me on it, I don't give a fuck. And the thing is, when I look back to my girlhood, I wasn't what you'd considered fast. I wasn't fast at all. I'm going to use quotation marks. I wasn't fast at all. The reason why I wasn't fast is not because I was like some goody two-shoes. It's actually just because I was very underdeveloped. I've always been really slim. And when I was a teenager, I was incredibly skinny, very small framed. Like, when I was like 14, I couldn't even fit into like a UK size 6. I was like a UK size 4, which is basically a size 0 in the US. I had no breasts. I didn't start growing breasts until like on the cusp of 16. Like, I had fully left secondary school and I'd entered college, and I was, because my birthday's early as well. My birthday's in October, so literally when I was just about to turn 17 that I actually started to get a bit of breast tissue. Even my period came when I was 14. Like, everything's just always been so late for me, and I've just always looked, so when I was like 16 I looked 12, so I never got the attention of the older guys. Like, I was never that girl who got picked up from school by an older man because they weren't checking for me. It was usually the more developed girls that grew up fast. When I say grew up fast, I mean they did things that probably other girls their age mates wouldn't do. And I mean sexually, they would have had sex much earlier, probably been exposed to things that they shouldn't have been much earlier, like sexually. They probably would have dated older guys as well, gone out to places that maybe they shouldn't have gone to. When you are a much more developed young girl, you kind of get unwanted attention. It's not attention that you seek, it's just attention that kind of like comes to you. And if you aren't being given the proper guidance, like I keep on saying, you can easily be misled. And the thing is, a lot of people dismiss fast girls, and I hate that term fast, like being fast. It's actually really riddled with misogyny, because when you think about it, young boys who are going out there fucking different girls, who are staying out late, doing all of these different things, right, that they really shouldn't be doing, nobody calls them fast. Nobody says, oh, you're growing up too quickly, you need to slow down, you're this, you're that. Nobody says that. They just kind of cheer them on. Yeah, go on, do your thing. When girls do it, it's like they're dismissed. People even lack empathy for them, to the point where they don't even see them as victims. I thought about, for example, somebody like R. Kelly, who loves to groom. He has there's a specific age range that he loves to groom, and that's usually 13 to 16. That's like the age where, you know, they've started puberty, so they've started developing things, but they're still naive in their brain. It's those kind of guys that get away with that shit because nobody feels to protect those girls, especially when they're black girls. I'm sorry, I have to bring up race. Nobody feels to protect them. And the reason why it's especially when they're black girls is because we know how black girls are adultified in society. Please go and look up adultification, the adultification bias. Please go and look it up. There's a quick video on YouTube. If you search on YouTube, I think it's like 4 minutes long. I forgot the person's name. I'm so sorry that I'm not speaking on names. I'll put it on the screen actually. But go and look that up. Young black girls, like hardly anyone sees them as victims because they just assume that they don't view them as little girls. They view them as grown ass fucking women, right? And they assume that this is just how black girls are. They're just fast. They're just more sexually advanced than other girls. This is what I mean by this is how society fails young girls, especially fails young black girls. Because there's no empathy. There's no empathy. There's no need. There's no feeling or a need to protect them. And now when you're presented with a film like Cuties, you have an issue. You have an issue because this is the reality. This is the reality of how so many of these young girls are living. And when you're from a religious home, not only is there no guidance, you know, or no nurturing of your curiosity, you're also being taught abstinent sex ed. Please, 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 I advise you to go on my Instagram, __ Rakaya, and I have a series called Beyond the Caption. It's in my IGTV series, and there's one that I did on abstinent sex education, like the problem with abstinent sex ed. It is so informative. I highly advise that you watch that. Abstinence sex ed is literally one of the worst ways, one of the worst things that you could teach young children. It literally does nothing. It helps them in no way. It's the reason why let me not get into it. Just go and watch the video. Go and watch the video on my page, on my Instagram page. Even the scene when she started her period, like her auntie was like, she didn't sit her down and talk to her and explain things and what this means and, you know, anything about like contraception or even how, you know, you can experience moods and stuff like that. Like, there was no care. It was just, okay, I'm just going to show you what to do now. You're a woman now. So I'm going to show you how to put on pads and tampons, and that's it. And then afterwards, her mum came into her room and said, so you're a woman now. And then she left, and that was it. And I thought to myself, well, what does it mean to be a woman? What does womanhood mean? You're not even teaching her that. You just say that, well, you're a woman now. What is a young person supposed to take from that? I remember even my mom said that to me. I'm not complaining about how my mom raised me or anything like that. Like, there's no complaints here. But when I saw that also made me think about when I was younger and when I started my period. My mom was also like, oh, you're a woman now. But I didn't necessarily know what that meant. And that to me is a big issue because nothing is really getting spoken about. Nothing's really getting explained. It's like you're just kind of left to your own devices. Even now that I'm above a certain age, my dad, he always, anytime I speak to him on the phone, he always asks me, where's your boyfriend? Where's your boyfriend? I want to meet him. I'm like, I don't have a boyfriend. It's every single time, every single conversation that we have, he's asking me, where's my boyfriend? Whereas prior to that, before I reached the age of 21, it was more of no boyfriends and also no discussion on sex or anything like that. That's why now when he asks me like, where's your boyfriend, it just feels really cringy because we've never had that kind of conversation. It's just kind of just been a thing of stay away from boys and that's it. And that big leap from stay away, don't do anything, to now where's your boyfriend, where's your husband, when you're gonna get married, it's just it's such an issue. The part that really surprised me the most, or really made me think, was when she stole her cousin's phone, and then her cousin found out that she had the phone and he took it from her, and then she was begging him to give it back for him to give it back to her, and he wouldn't. So then she resorted to taking off her clothes to kind of like seduce him. And I was just like, wow, she's 11 years old and she understands how to weaponize her femininity to get what she wants. Now, obviously, her cousin was just like, ew, what the hell are you doing? And he pushed her away. But the fact that she understood that at such a young age, that really exposed the harsh reality of how so many girls are living their lives right now. And that would have made so many people uncomfortable. But there's a reason why. It's so that you can understand what's going on currently. The outrage really reminded me of the Joker film, which is one of my favorite films. It's my favorite film of all time, I think, just after The Matrix. But it really reminded me of how a lot of people said that how it was perpetrating violence. Really what Joker did was expose the harsh reality of living under capitalism. And a lot of people couldn't deal with that, because not only did it expose the reality of life under capitalism, it actually also exposed how unkind our society can be. Witnessing the Joker go down such a downward spiral mentally, you saw that a lot of outside people contributed to it, and a lot of outside circumstances contribute to it. Like, for example, when they cut the costs from his social worker, so they were they shut down the office, and he no longer was going to get his tablets. He no longer could go to somebody to at least speak to every week. He lost that outlet. Not only that, but even at work, like, just people just making fun of him and always being unkind. And those guys on the train, those city boys, right, who just took the piss and who just was so unkind and was so malicious, like, and that's the reality. And maybe it's the reason why so many people felt uncomfortable with this with the Joker film, is because maybe it exposed some messy shit about you. Maybe just how unkind and how much you lack empathy for others, just how alienated the main character was from society, just how ostracized, like, just exposed, like, how there are certain people in our society, right, who are just ostracized from everyone else, and who are kind of like pushed to the side and just forgotten about and just dismissed. That's what it exposed. I remember when the mayor said something so disgusting. I forgot the exact words, but he said something so disgusting about the people who were rebelling and who were wearing the clown masks and rebelling and rioting and stuff like that. And he said something so disgusting about them. I think he said about how they're scum or something, or it was really gross. And seeing these girls express their sexuality the way they did, right, and you know, be fueled by their curiosity the way that they were, it exposed life for girls under patriarchy. What I've learned from this movie, or what I've got from it, the message from it, is that we really need to do better. We really need to do better, not only for young girls, but for young people in general. We need to teach them about sex and how to protect themselves, and, you know, what consent is, and how to be street smart, and how to spot someone that is trying to groom you, regardless of their gender. Because I remember at my workplace before the pandemic and stuff, when we were going around to schools and speaking to young people about consent, we'd also speak to them about grooming. And when we'd show a couple of clips, because we usually do it for like the group of girls, we do it for everyone, but then also sometimes we take the girls separately and show them these clips and also give them advice on how to spot somebody that is trying to take advantage. And whenever they saw these clips and we would speak to them, they were so shocked. They were so shocked and so scared because it's something that they never even, they didn't know that this was the thing. We need to be able to equip young people with the tools to go out into the world and make better choices for themselves. We can't make them do what we want them to do. We can't. And we need to stop thinking that we can. What we need to do is we just need to guide them. Rather than tell young people don't have sex, right, which is a part of abstinence sex ed, why not tell them, listen, if you're gonna go out and have sex, this is what you need to do. This is how you can stay protected. The reason why you need to stay protected is because you can get STIs, or you can get an unwanted pregnancy and all of these other things. And not only that, but it just gives you a peace of mind. And I'm not saying go out there and do it, but I know that you're young, you're curious. So if you do go out and do it, this is how you can protect yourself. And you should also go to the clinic regularly. When you're ready to go to the clinic, let me know, we can go together. If you're embarrassed, or if you're embarrassed and you don't want to go with me, then here's a list of the places that you can go to in the area, and you can check them out and go yourself. That should be the approach, rather than just tell them don't do this and do that. Just give them advice. Just give them the tools, the knowledge, so they can make better informed choices. Like, they can make more informed decisions. I just think to myself, if somebody told me these things, I would have, there's certain things that I've done in the past that I feel like I could have avoided, rather than have like a hard lesson, learn the hard way. If somebody had just told me these things, I could have moved through my adolescence and moved through my early adulthood probably quite a lot more easier. We need to encourage young people to make choices that center their happiness and protects them from being taken advantage of. I feel like this is my interpretation because obviously I'm a sex educator, and I've watched other people's interpretations of this film and give their own review. I watched them give their own interpretations, like for example Themis and Thoth, sorry if I pronounced your YouTube name incorrectly, T Noir, like I said, D'Angelo Wallace, Kimberly from For Harriet. These people all had their own different interpretations, but my one is definitely influenced by what I actually do, which, I'm a sex educator, so I'm seeing it from that point of view, where it's more of, we need to teach young people about sex. We need to give them the comprehensive sex ed that we missed out on. But also for me, it's the intersections of sex, race and gender, and how that showed up in this film. Another thing that I want to say as well is that I really don't buy the outrage. Like, I don't buy it. I genuinely believe that if it was just black girls, if there were no other race girls, if there was no white girls in this movie, nobody would have cared so much. I remember one of my favorite YouTubers, Chrissy, she pointed this out, and I wholeheartedly agree. It's only because there are some non-black girls in this movie that there's such a ruckus. I don't think people would have given a fuck if this was just an all-black cast of young girls, because like I said, like I brought up before, the adultification bias, like nobody would have given a fuck. People are using this film for their own political motives as well. It's just disgusting, and people are making judgments of this movie without even watching it. And I was about to be one of those people. I was actually about to be one of those people who was not going to watch the movie, but who was going to have a negative conclusion of the movie, even though I've not seen it. I'm so glad that I did see it. It's honestly one of the best movies that I've seen this year, and I highly recommend it. I also want to say a big shout out to Maimouna Decoré. Sorry if I have pronounced your name incorrectly, but I just want to give a big shout out to her because she wrote and directed this film, and I really understand what you were trying to do with this film, and I feel like it was executed beautifully. Thank you so much for this film. Like, it's just making me look at my childhood and my adolescence like a lot more differently. Like, oh, I didn't know I was like that. I didn't know that I was that curious. Like, I didn't know that I explored like that, So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, to everyone else who's watching this, just watch the movie first before you form an opinion. Watch the movie and then let me know what you think. If you've already watched the movie, let me know in the comments down below. I know some people will probably disagree with this review. I honestly don't care. I mean, it's my review. This is just what I got from it. This is my own interpretation of it. But even if you do disagree, let me know why you disagree with what I'm saying in this video. Let's create the discussion, you know. Let's keep it going. That's all for now, guys. Like I said, follow me on Instagram __ Rakaya. Subscribe to this channel, like this video. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.